evening, all of you.
Good evening.
Sit down. Sit down. Okay. Pick out your volume. Okay. Pick out your volume. Pick out your volume. इधर आ जाओ. Both of you will not sit together. इधर आओ. सामने आओ. अरमान, हाँ? अरमान है कि आर्यन? अरमान इधर आ जाओ. सामने आओ. So last class we were talking about this personal and community issues that affect our health. Take out your volume, all of you. I'll check. So now we are going to move on with the chapter. So the last class we were talking about this personal and community issues, no? So we had been talking about this personal and community issues that affect health. So this was what we were discussing the other day, personal and community issues that affect health. And we had already finished this the other day, where we had been already talking about what physical factors, how does physical factors affect health. I gave you certain questions also, I'll ask you what we have written. We had also been talking about social environment, how does it affect health. We had discussed about all these. We said that social environment also deals with the neighbor, tussle with the friends, with our friends in the class, or with some neighbors, etc., that may create some stress and certain different type of health issues. Public cleanliness. This also we discussed. How can public cleanliness affect our health? Balanced diet and good economic conditions. So this is what we were discussing the other day. And let us continue complete with the last point. So this was the last point that is left under this head. We are talking about the last points there. Follow your volume. Social equality. What is the meaning of social equality? What is the meaning of equality? Equality, you understand. No? Now, social equality is again. What is the meaning of social equality? Say suppose now there is a occasion in your society, and then there's an occasion in your society, in your building, and then so many other families are also participating. But some way or the other, you get to see that one particular family is been outcasted. One particular family is been kept isolated. So obviously the members of that family would feel humiliated, stressed, depressed. Understand? Does this happen? Can this happen in your schools also? Yes, quite a number of times. Say suppose you talk about that you are a group of some 6 friends. And suddenly you get to see that today something or the other has happened, and the other 5, they are not very much sharing their things with you, and they are not discussing anything with you. They are not talking as normal as they used to be. So are you going to feel very happy or excited or sad about it? Sad about it. No? So this is what we talk about as social equality. Yes, it happens. It happens. Quite a number of times we come across that maybe certain people, certain individuals in a place of job, in a place of study. Yes, it happens. Sometime or the other, somebody may be just listed out, maybe isolated, and the reasons may be many. So suppose I give you a very simple example with which you may relate. Maybe I talk about in a class that there are some 5-6 students who are very, very good in sports. And there is one of them in the group who is not very good in sports. So quite a number of them, the person who is not very good, the student who is not very good, may feel a little bit left out. So that is what we understand as social equality. So what do they understand from here? The individual or individual families, when we talk about a community, families or individual, or we should learn how to accept each other. We should all learn to accept each other. So in that case, if we are left out for any particular reason, then that creates certain stress, and the health issues may be related. Now, these words at the start of the chapter already I had discussed. Now let us again take up this disease free. What is the meaning of disease free? What is disease free? When we are talking about when we don't suffer from any infection, when we are not suffering from any deficiency, when we are not suffering from any injury. No? So yes, any particular factor which may result in certain type of a impaired function in our body, nothing is happening, then we understand, okay, we are disease free. We are disease free. Now, if I talk about state any two conditions essential for good health, any two conditions essential for good health, take that question in your book. Read the answer there. State any two conditions essential for good health. A person is known to be in good health when a person is in a state of physical, social, mental well-being that we already studied. And when all the organs of the system are functioning properly, then also the person may be considered to be enjoying good health. No? Take that question, that's very important. State any two conditions essential for being disease-free. Now, is this question different from the previous? Yes. Now they are only saying that what can be some of the conditions that we have to understand, that we have to list to become disease-free. Yes, if you are to understand that we are disease-free, we understand that there should not be any discomfort in any part of our body. If there's a tremendous headache that you are having today, can you say that you are disease-free? No. Something or the other is going on in your body. No. If today you are having a gripping pain in your stomach right after lunch, can you say that you are disease-free? No. So something or the other, you may have a slight fever, you may have eye irritation, you may have some cough, etc. So in all these different type of conditions that people will go through every day, then we would understand that no, we may not be disease-free and something or the other, some different type of conditions are happening. Let us take the question that I gave you the other day. What are the questions I gave you? I think I gave you two questions, no? One question. Read out what I gave you.
Explain how balanced diet helps in maintaining our health.
हाँ, पढ़ो. Answer लिखा तुमने?
Yes, but it's not like.
हाँ?
Yes, but it's not like.
अच्छा पढ़ो. I'll give you a proper answer if it's not satisfactory.
Balanced diet helps in maintaining our health because balanced diet are nutrients of all equal amounts of everything that protein, calcium, and etc.
We'll have to add something. There, what's his name? Aditya. Read out what you've written.
A balanced diet supplies the nutrients your body needs to work efficiently. Without balanced nutrition, your body is more prone to disease, infection, fatigue, and low performance.
Fatigue. One thing, okay, little bit fine. One thing, when you are writing an answer, don't write your, write on. Okay? लिखा? टाइम नहीं मिला? टाइम नहीं मिला? लिखा है क्या? Oh, thank God. बोलो, what did you write? अब उसका खुद का handwriting वो पढ़ नहीं पाएगा because he has not written. I know that. नहीं लिखा ना? हाँ. To learn how to speak the truth.
मैम लिखा है.
हाँ तो पढ़ो ना. पढ़ो. हाँ शर्म आ रही है पढ़ने.
नहीं मेरी गलती है.
तुम्हारी गलती है.
नहीं मेरी गलती नहीं है. क्या बोल दूँ? अब बोलना पड़ेगा मुझे वरना मैं डांटता हूँ.
हाँ बोलो.
एक्चुअली क्या हुआ था? मैं अकेला करके आया था.
अकेला?
करके आया था.
हाँ.
फिर इसने चारों ने लिखा. अब आपने उससे पूछ लिया. अब सबने सेम ही लिखा है तो सब सेम ही पढ़ेंगे.
सच है ये?
मैं अकेला लिख के आया था.
अच्छा.
और उसने वही लिखा. अब उसने पढ़ लिया वो वापस मैं कैसे पढ़ सकता हूँ?
Such interesting things are happening in the classroom.
हाँ but मैंने तो लिख के आया था. मैं अपना लिख के आया.
At least I appreciate your honesty. And I get very furious on your laziness. एक answer अब से मैं ना I'm going to give you 10-25 questions as homework. एक क्वेश्चन जब कर नहीं सकते हो अभी 20 क्वेश्चन तो करके लाओगे हाँ क्योंकि एक एक क्वेश्चन बायोलॉजी टीचर देती है तो वो पेरेंट्स को भी पता नहीं चलता कि बायोलॉजी टीचर कुछ होमवर्क देती भी है, बट बायोलॉजी में सबको फुल मार्क्स मिल जाता है बिकॉज आई नेवर गिव यू होमवर्क, एवरीथिंग इज एट द क्लास। अब से मैं 20-25 क्वेश्चंस दूंगी तो पेरेंट्स को भी पता चलेगा कि बच्चा बैठ के कुछ तो लिखेगा 10 मिनट, तो पेरेंट्स की नजर में क्या आएगा, हाँ बायो टीचर तो बहुत सारा होमवर्क दे रही है, अब क्या हो रहा है, यही करना पड़ेगा अब तो, ठीक है ना। हाँ चलो, now next is when we are talking about the answer, why is balanced diet, question क्या है, why is balanced diet,
Why is balanced diet? Explain how balanced diet helps in maintaining our health.
So सबसे पहले for this answer you have to first of all write what is meant by balanced diet, and then you have to write 2 proper reasons कि बैलेंस डाइट से क्या हो सकता है, और अगर हम बैलेंस डाइट नहीं लेंगे then what may happen. चलो we write a proper answer, right? What is balance? So that should be the first sentence. Balanced diet refers to, लिखो अरमान बाबू का आंसर इतना परफेक्ट नहीं है. Balanced diet refers to, but still Arman has made an effort to write down the answer and you all have made a better effort to copy his answer. हाँ, effort तुम लोग की ज़्यादा है ना, हमेशा याद रखो, never to copy from anybody anything, that's my piece of advice. चाहे वो आज एक आंसर हो, या किसी का स्टाइल ऑफ टॉकिंग हो, या किसी का स्टाइल ऑफ क्लोथिंग हो, anything in life, किसी से कुछ कॉपी करना ही नहीं है, try to make up things up. अगर तुम कुछ लिखते भी नहीं, you would have tried telling me 2 words about it, I would have been very proud about it. किसी से कभी भी कुछ कॉपी नहीं करो, that's the worst thing that you all are doing in life. आया समझ में? कभी भी किसी से कुछ भी नहीं कॉपी करना, चाहे वो तुम्हारा बेस्ट फ्रेंड क्यों ना हो, किसी से कुछ कॉपी मत करो. Always try to stand out alone. Then you'll be very confident and successful in your life. चलो, balanced diet refers to the optimum amount of nutrients present in our meal, MEAL, in our meal that is just necessary for our body. Full stop. The essential nutrients are proteins, carbohydrates, fats, minerals, vitamins, and water. Minerals, vitamins, and water. Full stop. Full stop. Next sentence. Adequate amount of these nutrients help. Tomorrow you have holiday.
Yes.
School holiday.
School have holiday plus YouTube.
अच्छा YouTube कल how come? Tuesdays.
और back holiday.
YouTube holiday है?
मुश्किल.
किसने तुमको बोला?
ऐसा लग रहा है.
There's no holiday in YouTube.
कौन है वो?
मुझे
हाँ उससे.
तुम्हें कंफर्म है?
क्योंकि एसएस की है ना मैंने लिया
अरे there is no holiday duty हाँ. हाँ कल उनके में holiday है.
नहीं
हाँ उन लोगों को holiday है ना.
मुझे हॉलीडे है ना मैं कल नहीं आ रही
Don't assume. After that, it may happen that you all are not coming for the lecture. There is no holiday for duty. Muharram and all these occasions here.
That's
No
what
holiday
I
here. Now come on, give the attendance sheet. What I said, adequate amount of these nutrients help in growth, repair, and proper functioning of the body organs. Proper functioning of the body organs. Full stop. The last sentence.
The body organ.
Organs. Full stop. The last sentence. Deficiency of any of these nutrients. Deficiency of any of these nutrients results in diseases or impaired, impaired means disturbed, impaired functions of our systems. Okay, so this answer 2 to 3 mark generally you get for your exam. Let us now talk about diseases and its causes. So here we'll talk about, say suppose, when we are talking about the concept of disease and cause, and how do we understand that we are suffering from a disease? Say suppose, now we are talking about the concept of diseases. Now here, first of all, I'll say that disease hai, for a disease, let us name some disease. Give you one name of a disease. That will be huh?
Polio. Disease है. Polio.
Say the common one.
thyroid.
Thyroid is not a very common disease that all age groups have. Kwashirkar. Acha, let me give you first a very simple one so that you can tell me the answers for the rest. Say suppose, Acha, so give me a simple one. Say suppose, should I write malaria, or okay, if I write COVID also, you'll have to give me the rest of this name. Then give me, how do you understand that a person suffers from malaria?
By physical health or
give me a, that's why I say wale example so that you can tell me something. Fever. Okay, high fever. Okay. COVID, how do you understand that the person is suffering from COVID? Then एक दूसरे को देखते देखते तुम्हारा पूरा 45 minutes चला गया. Piles. Okay, if you know that. Or say suppose एक और बोलो that you know. Common one. Dengue. Okay, fine. If you know that. Dengue, malaria, basically. Anyways, fever hai. COVID, what do you understand? Weakness. Extreme congestion in the lungs. No?
throat infection.
Throat infection, lung infection. Extreme lung infection हमें दिखता है? No, lung infection तो हमें दिखता नहीं है. But I would write that breathlessness. That's the common thing that you will get to see in the person. Breathless. Piles. Asthma is also another one, but less severe than COVID. No, piles. Piles. If you are talking about piles, do you know how do you understand? What is the difficulty that the person has?
That person cannot bend.
Person cannot bend.
What is piles? Actually, there was
Piles is a condition where there is a problem with the intestines. The person has a problem in the intestine. So that's not a very common. You all have not. Most of you have not come across this. So let me talk about something else. Something like
spine one infection.
what is that?
Swine flu. Swine flu.
Why you are in love with this type of diseases? You don't know anything better. Huh? You don't know anything better. Acha. Let me talk about jaundice.
Cancer.
Jaundice, common one, so that you can tell me here answers. This you all have heard about. Jaundice. Can you understand how a person?
Chickenpox.
Chickenpox. Another one, very common that you all have come across. So if I talk about jaundice, now tell me. If you have, all of you have come across this word, no? Jaundice. It's a common disease. Then how do you understand that the person is suffering from jaundice? सबसे prominent क्या है जो देख के समझ में आ जाता है कि that the person is suffering from jaundice? The yellowing of the body, the yellowing of the eyes, especially, the yellowing of the eyes, Okay. And next, what I'll talk about dengue. How do you understand that the person is suffering from dengue? Extreme weakness. The person cannot stand. Extreme weakness because the blood cells are dropping. So weakness, severe weakness. Okay. Now if I talk about chickenpox, can you understand by looking at a person that the person is suffering from chickenpox?
Spots in the body.
There will be enough amount of blisters, or these are actually known as pustules. These are known as pustules, meaning these are boils, water-filled boils ho jate hai pura body mein na, water-filled. So something like blisters, the correct word is pustules, where the entire body is filled up with small, jaise bade pimples jaise, but then every pimple has got a water-filled structure inside. So ye jo, by looking at all this, or by looking at a person, when you see that the person is suffering from extreme breathlessness, you understand the person must be suffering from lung infection, lung problems. Okay, lung problems. So वैसे तो lung problems और भी कितने सारे हो सकते हैं. I may talk about tuberculosis, I may talk about pneumonia. These are also lung problems. But if I talk about COVID now, that we have learned recently, where the breathlessness is severe. The breathlessness is severe, associated with other different conditions. I talk about malaria. वैसे तो malaria, when I talk about fever तो और भी कितने सारे diseases में होता है. I talk about throat infection. I talk about simple influenza. I talk about typhoid. So ये सारे diseases में भी तो fever होता है. But the fever of malaria, how is it different? The fever of malaria is rising up and down always. The fever, when I talk about malarial infection, the person may have fever right up to 104 degrees, and then again with shivering, and then sweating, and then again the fever may come down to 101 or 100.
So they are feeling too hot.
It is rising up and fluctuating fever. That's called fluctuating. Dengue, when you talk about that the person is too weak, weakness is severe, and then also suddenly, it's not that the person is becoming weak in a period of a month. The person will become weak because the blood cells are dropping after a particular number. The person will become weak and extremely weak, massive weakness in just a period of 2-3 days. Massive weakness in a period of 2 days. Chickenpox, yes, by looking at the person, you can understand that what is this? What is common? What is that single word that we can use for all these? We would say these are known as symptoms. Then what is the meaning of the word symptom? By looking at a person, when we understand, say suppose whenever we go to the doctor also at times, when you talk about that the person goes to the doctor, initially, does the doctor ask you to do all the tests, whatever possible in the medical field?
Yeah, and what are the symptoms?
So first of all, the doctor makes an assessment. No, acha, ye hua hoga. That's how. What happened? We are dozing. So now that when we are talking about that when anybody goes to the doctor, the first thing that you would ask one or two preliminary questions, then what is the difficulty? So now if somebody says that pain in the stomach, then you would assess that pain in the stomach meaning something may be associated with intestine or the stomach, and then maybe it is diarrhea or cholera or dysentery, etc., etc. So he would give 1 or 2 tests because he is not very sure कि diarrhea है कि cholera है कि dysentery है jaundice etc., etc. So now he would give 1 or 2 tests, and then because he has already assumed कि शायद ये हुआ होगा, and then he gives 1 or 2 tests, and then quite a number of times he may not give a test, and then he or she may straight away give the medicine. But if there's a little bit of a dicey situation, little bit confusing situation, then they would give 1 or 2 tests, and then after the test they are confirmed, and then they would give the proper medicine. As I said that for COVID, a person goes to the doctor with breathlessness, immediately the doctor may not start giving the medicines of COVID, because breathlessness is a symptom for so many diseases. So yes, another 2-3 symptoms also has to be judged first of all, to make it sure that yes, the person is really suffering from COVID. So वैसे तो symptoms of COVID, symptoms of pneumonia, symptoms of tuberculosis are all common symptoms, but severity अलग है, severity is different. So that's the reason the doctor would ask for certain tests, and if those tests come positive, then the doctor immediately starts with the medicine. No? So that is what we are talking about, a symptom. That is what we talk about, a symptom. Then what should be the definition of the word symptom? The sign of a disease. The sign of a disease. No? Whenever a person is suffering from a disease, by looking at the face, by looking at the body conditions, we can understand. Simple cough and cold, you say. Now that today we all are healthy. But if suddenly somebody starts suffering from cough also, by looking at the body, you can understand. By the characteristics of the way we are talking, or way we can understand that the person is suffering from certain difficulty. Symptoms, signs, and symptoms. So, what can be some common? Can you now tell me some common 5 symptoms that you had also come across in your lives? Whatever you had also come across. What are the common symptoms associated with so many diseases are fever. Fever is a common symptom. Fever basically is not a disease. No, fever is just a symptom. So, वैसे तो fever is a symptom for almost about 15-20 diseases. So, if you go to the doctor, just by seeing the high temperature or by judging the high temperature, can he or she give you a medicine? No. Just by judging the high temperature, because that fever may be because of some throat infection. The fever may be because of kidney infection, fever may be because of infection in the stomach, fever may be because of some eye infection or massive skin infection, so many other things. So that's the reason some other tests also has to be done. Now, are you aware about this? Pathological test, are you aware about this word? Pathological test, पता है? नहीं, कभी नहीं देखा parents को करते हुए. Pathological test. Pathological labs, पता है? Pathological laboratories. What is it? You have heard about this ever? Pathological laboratories, पता है? किसको पता है? किसी को नहीं पता. अरे, you all should read extra. Pathological labs, pathological laboratories. Go to that place. Say, suppose a person goes to the doctor. And a person goes to the doctor and the doctor says that you have to get your blood tested, you have to get your urine tested. So where will the doctor ask this person to go? To a pathological lab, laboratory, lab meaning laboratory. So pathological lab, हर एक hospitals के साथ pathological labs होती है. अरे बाप रे, how many liters of water you brought?
हर चीज गिरा ही रहता है.
Huh? Mother has given such a nice water bottle, but he is in the process of breaking it. Huh? Water bottle संभाला नहीं जाता तुमसे. 9th standard student हो. How should it fall? That's the big question for me. Now, so pathological labs. किसी को पता है कोई pathological lab कोई company का नाम? कुछ नहीं पता. हाँ, so we all call doctors at home, but at least नाम तो पता होना चाहिए.
Ma'am, there is a lab near us. I don't know the name.
Metropolis. No. These are all brands. These are all bad brands.
One only in this sector 60.
नाम कभी देखा है? Brand name कभी देखा है? Do you all know at least एक आध नाम पता है? एक आध नाम पता है? No, Dr. Reddy's होता है, and then we talk about what? As I said now, pathological labs, Apollo pathological labs होता है, with associated with Apollo hospitals है. Then we talk about Dr. Lal Path होता है. So there are many brands. These are just brand names. Like when we wear clothes also have got brand names, no? various different type of brand of clothes we wear. So exactly same like that. Like the hospitals have got some names. The pathological labs also have got names. So what are happening in these pathological labs? They can test various parameters of our blood. By testing various parameters of our blood, the doctors can understand, okay, this person has got this and this problem, so this medication. By testing the urine, various different parameters again can be understood. So by that, the doctor can understand, okay, the person is having diabetes, this person is having the problems of thyroid, etc., etc. So that is what is known as pathological tests. Underline that word in your volume. Underline that word. What is meant by pathological tests? The process of testing of the blood or the urine to understand various parameters of our body, to understand various parameters of our body. See the last point here, take this. Tick or underline, symptoms and signs. Can you see in your volume there, symptoms and signs, the last point, underline that, underline that. So that is what we are talking about as a concept of pathological test. So what is the meaning of pathological test? Today there are so many different type of laboratories like this, where the blood and the urine and etc. etc. Say suppose now, if I talk about now the COVID, all of you are aware about it. No, the COVID, the period we are already almost over. Now during this period of COVID, when a person was suspected, or whenever we used to go anywhere, the rapid antigen test was very much necessary. Without the rapid antigen test report, you cannot enter anywhere. You cannot. And later came the RT-PCR test. Without the RT-PCR test, you cannot travel. You cannot go to any mall even. So nowadays it's quite relaxed now. But there was a time when without this test reports, you cannot enter the airport. You cannot enter the railway station. You cannot enter the big malls and all. No way. So what were they testing? Do you know? You all also did. You must have done the test once or twice. So for the RT-PCR test or the rapid antigen test, what were they testing? What were they testing? They used to take the swab from our regions of the throat. So they used to take a fine pin, a pipe-like thing made up of fine quality plastic. They used to put it inside the mouth, in the throat region, and take the swab. And also put it inside the nose and take the swab, because that is what they are trying to test, because the virus is multiplying there, if at all in the body. The virus would multiply there. But if I talk about if a person has to be tested whether suffering from diabetes or not, then will the swab test give him any result? No. Then the blood has to be tested. If the person is suffering from malaria or not, if that has to be understood, then what to be tested? Blood again has to be tested. A person is suffering from chicken pox or not, if to be tested, then what to be tested? The pustule, jo 2-4 pustules pehle hua hai, and then the water sample from there to be tested, and there'll be lots and lots of virus there. So it is confirmed that the person is suffering from chicken pox, etc. So for every type of a test to get confirmed, certain type of substances, sometimes urine, sometimes swab, sometimes the blood, etc., has to be tested. Now we talk about the diseases that we understand. Now tell me, if I now make a change here, I'm talking about malaria as one. I am talking about malaria as one. And I'm talking about diabetes as another. I'm talking, you all have heard about diabetes?
Yes.
क्या होता है diabetes में?
When the blood sugar level is increased.
The blood sugar level remains high always. Say suppose today now I give you, now say suppose for lunch your mother must have given you some 5 gulab jamuns. पसंद नहीं है? 5 नहीं?
उसको एक भी नहीं खाता।
अरे एक भी नहीं पसंद तुमको?
At least 4 only, not 5.
5 कभी नहीं खाया?
किसी ने पूछा डेजर्ट लेगा, बोला करेला दे दो, कैसा
तुम्हारा ये जो joke है ना is very bad. Your sense of humor is very bad. Now, when we are talking about this, what I said, now say suppose, as I said, now your mother gives you or a bowl full of gulab jamuns. 5 gulab jamuns देती है एक बार खाने के लिए. Or she gives you a bowl full of ice creams or some pastries. And what is your favorite dessert? अरे ice cream. तो अभी some 1 or 2 bowl full of ice cream तुमने खाया. After that, when we go for a blood test, What do you expect? The sugar level in the blood should be high? Yes, the sugar level in the blood will be high. Not only when we are talking about gulab jamuns and ice creams, etc. Now that I've taken my lunch, now that we have taken our lunch ki immediately एक half an hour, 1 hour के बीच में you go for a blood test, your sugar level will as it is be high, But after another hour, you again go for the blood test. That means पहले 1 घंटे के बाद में हमने टेस्ट किया, and after that maybe another 1 hour, 1.5 hour के बाद हमने second test किया. What are we supposed to find? Now the blood sugar will come down and touch the normal line if a person is not suffering from diabetes. But if a person is suffering from diabetes, then when he takes the normal lunch and after lunch एक घंटे के बाद he does the test, the sugar level is high. इसके बाद एक और 2 घंटे के बाद he does the test, the sugar level is still high. क्योंकि नॉर्मली अभी क्या हो रहा था, इन नॉर्मल इंडिविजुअल्स व्हाट हैज हैपेंड इन दैट गैप ऑफ 2 आवर्स, पूरा फूड डाइजेस्ट हो गया, द शुगर ग्लूकोज मॉलिक्यूल्स जो ब्लड में चला गया था, द बॉडी सेल्स हैव एब्सॉर्ब्ड इट एंड द पर्सन इज गेटिंग एडिक्वेट अमाउंट ऑफ एनर्जी टू डू ऑल द एक्टिविटीज.
Ma'am, that is why doctor tell us to like go after before breakfast.
हाँ, तो एम्प्टी स्टमक इसीलिए ताकि बिफोर फूड व्हाट इज द अमाउंट ऑफ ग्लूकोज ऑलरेडी इन योर ब्लड टू टेस्ट, एंड देन अगेन टेक योर फूड, टेक योर ब्रेकफास्ट, एंड देन अगेन आफ्टर 1 घंटे के बाद 1.5 घंटे के बाद फिर से टेस्ट करो. So it's actually that's the correct procedure. So now when we are talking about a person suffering from diabetes, then क्या होगा? The person even after taking food, he goes for a blood test. खाने के 3 घंटे के बाद भी if he is going for a test, 4 घंटे के बाद भी if he is going for a test, his sugar levels are as it is higher, much higher. तो ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है? Why is it consistently high क्यों है? Because the sugar is or the glucose in the blood is not getting used by the blood body cells. Body cells वो ग्लूकोज को ब्लड से एब्सॉर्ब ही नहीं कर रहा है, and that's the reason the body is not getting adequate amount of energy. So now when we are talking about a condition something like this, persistent blood glucose high in the blood, diabetes. Malaria, what is happening for a person who is suffering from malaria? Now suddenly the person starts suffering from fever, and then there may be shivering, and then the temperature is fluctuating, sometimes very high, sometimes very low. There is no appetite for food, the entire mouth becomes bitter, and then sometimes he or she suffers from cold sweat. Cold sweat matlab we generally sweat when it is hot. Now this person is suffering only because of the fever. There is no high temperature that he should be sweating, cold sweat. So then after that what's happening? This person is becoming very weak. But does this condition of malaria remain for a long time? Is this person suffering from malaria for a long time? Roughly how many days this person must be suffering from malaria?
8.
Roughly 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks maximum. 3 weeks के अंदर ठीक हो जाते हैं with medication. So roughly 2 to 3 weeks में the person is fit and fine again. But when a person is suffering from diabetes, how long does the person suffer?
6 months, 1 year.
Almost lifetime. Almost lifetime. So when a person is suffering from diabetes, when a person has started suffering from hypertension, high blood pressure, these are diseases which once developed generally does not completely get cured. Sometimes they may touch the normal level, and sometimes they will again take a higher level. Sometimes normal, sometimes again high. So quite often you will come across, if a person is suffering from malaria, in that 1 week, sometimes for certain individuals, the condition is very, very serious. A person may be even taken to the hospital for that. I talk about a condition, something like pneumonia. Did you ever hear about this disease? Pneumonia. You have heard about this? Pneumonia. What happens in pneumonia? The person has acute lung infection. This person also who is suffering from pneumonia must be suffering for a period of some 2 to 3 weeks, maximum a month. But in this 2 to 3 weeks, he is suffering maximum. Symptoms are so many. He may need hospitalization also and medications. But after a period of 1 month, 2 months, he is perfectly fine. He's perfectly fine. Is it happening again after 6 months? No. Is it happening again after 1 year? Not necessary. But when I talk about this, when I talk about hypertension, high blood pressure, the person once who has started suffering is suffering and suffering and suffering and suffering months and weeks and years. Only that with medication or exercise, sometimes it is under control and sometimes it becomes adverse. It's like that. So then what is the difference between these two types of diseases I'm trying to tell you? I'm trying to tell you there are certain diseases which we suffer for a short period of time. There are certain diseases which people would suffer only for a short period of time, but these type of diseases may have severe symptoms. But there are certain group of diseases which people suffer for a longer time and mostly for lifetime. But symptoms शायद इतना severe ना हो for which the person may need hospitalization. ज़्यादातर काफी बार लगता भी है. But here now the symptoms are regular. When you look into a person who is suffering from hypertension, you will not even understand that the person is suffering from such a problem. Maybe morning, evening, he's on medication, but okay, he's doing his regular job. He's not even coughing, he's not even sneezing. Same with diabetes. The person is on medication, maybe the person is on injections also, but देख के इतना नहीं समझ में आएगा. So such type of diseases we say, these are chronic diseases, chronic. So this type of diseases we will categorize them as what? These are chronic diseases, diseases which have long-term effect. Symptoms may be mild, sometimes high, sometimes low, like that. And what about this side? This type of diseases, they will be termed as what? Acute diseases. This type of diseases are acute because short time, but in that short time, symptoms are severe. Yes, tell me.
Ma'am, like there are hereditary diseases that a person gets from his her parents.
Correct.
So like that also stays for a long period of time. So
That stays for full lifetime, hereditary diseases. So that will not be considered under this two category as it is, because that person, that is a separate category altogether. Genetic diseases. So when we are talking about this, basically we are trying to understand diseases that a person develops during the lifetime, not right from birth. But हाँ, अगर फिर भी इन दोनों में से एक particular category में if you have to fit in, then obviously this. If I talk about hemophilia, if I talk about color blindness, which are hereditary diseases, people may not get cure of it anyhow. तो ये acute तो कभी भी नहीं है. It is this particular category. But वैसे भी it's a third category all over, altogether, genetic disorders. Okay, we'll continue again.
अच्छा हुआ हाँ सच्ची में अरे यार क्या भैया बोल ना पकड़ा गया सबने एक ही